welcome to another episode of Triple Tap. I believe we are now in double digits. I believe this is episode number 10. Can you guys believe this, Lance, Kent? How are you? Can you believe we've done 9 shows already and we're now into double digits? This is Triple Tap episode number 10.
Well, you know what they say, Ainsley, time flies when you're having fun.
Are you guys having fun?
I really enjoy this segment every week. The quality of the guests we get on, it's special.
Excellent. And what kind of a week have you guys had? Have you been busy? Have you been up to any exciting things? I know there's a lot of projects going on in the background that we're bringing forth into the Australia Project community. So, you know, what have you guys been working on and what's your week been like?
Well, I've been heavily involved with TAP in the Scenic Rim. We're doing a lot of work with and preparing a group of councillors and a new mayor for the Scenic Rim Council for the elections coming up. So that's been exciting, getting a brand new group together so that we can, dare I say it, get rid of a very corrupt council and actually get a council in that wants to represent the people who pay their rates. So that's a lot of work, and it's been really fulfilling. A lot of that going on this week.
That's pretty exciting.
Look,
sorry.
I've also had a really cool week.
Yeah.
I'd like to just talk about a couple of things real quickly. People are exposing themselves at a rate I've never seen before. It's like, because we've got to get across this line, they've got to get across their line, and that neither of us can hang around. So we see the bad actors. Now I'm going to put a shout out to the people that organised the marches in Brisbane for the Freedom Movement. And guys, you've got my phone number. You've got Kent's phone number. If you want to promote your events and you run good events, all you got to do is contact us. And that's called being courteous. And we'll put them on our main page. We've got a big following. We've got a lot of supporters, and it would help you guys. Don't come in and take cheap shots at us after the fact because you haven't bothered to let us know. So we're here. We love supporting you guys, but a little bit of common courtesy and I think a little bit of respect too would go a long way. Thanks.
Excellent. Cool. Look, well, I've had a pretty exciting week myself. Obviously, some of you know, I've got some big court cases going on and having a bit of fun in there, taking on the big banks. So it is all exciting what's going on out there. And this case just keeps getting adjourned and adjourned and adjourned. So I'm okay with that. Gives me time to learn more stuff and get more ammunition together. So Kent, I hear what you're saying about the councils. There is some exciting stuff coming up in regard to the councils. And I know like people are probably sick and tired of paying exorbitant council rates. If you guys are listening on our chat, give us a comment in the chat if you are sick and tired of paying council rates and you would like an alternative solution, because we get you to stay tuned. There is some really good stuff coming. So what we might do now, we have a group of people on tonight's show, so it's very exciting. This could get nice and lots of questions, lots of interaction. So stay tuned, guys. I'm just going to introduce our speaker, and then we'll bring our team of speakers on for this evening. So here we go. Our speaker tonight is Greg Ferguson. He is a bricklayer and a stone worker for the last 45 years. He has raised 4 sons and a daughter. He's been busy like my dad. And he has a wife, Melanie, who he says is his bullshit meter. So she keeps him on track. She knows when he's BSing or not. He's trained and taught in Taekwondo and has been for 25 to 30 years. And he represented Australia in Montreal in 1989. He's joined One Commando in 1990 to 1995, and he's taught survival around that time with a good mate, Sean McBride, who's a former commando. Greg is actively involved in conscious development through Indigenous and cathartic means, i.e. he does sweat lodges, fire walks, and meditation and shadow work, which sounds really exciting, and hopefully we'll get a chance to hear more from Greg tonight in regard to that. He has served as a firekeeper in the Sweat Lodge ceremony for 20 years, and his role is to hold space so that others may do their sacred work of experiencing divine within themselves, and in doing so, help others to do the same. At the beginning of all the COVID narrative, Greg had a meeting with 5 mates he's known for over 20 years to discuss how they could help people. And of course, TAP Hawkesbury, which is one of our satellite groups, was their vehicle of choice to reach and uplift people in the area. As the community has grown, it was evident to Greg that there was a fair number of people who have done and were doing conscious work. Greg's moral duty is to hold space for these people to shine what is within them so that others may do the same. And of course, this is how Greg imagines the better world. Greg actually is one of our TAP satellite leaders. He runs TAP Hawkesbury. And of course, he is the humble man with the initiative theme. And he does things like leadership, eldership. He empowers everybody to check their egos, which, hey, we all need to check our egos sometimes, right? So maybe Greg might give us some tips of how he goes about doing that. And of course, he equips all of them to help themselves and to help others. He's non-intrusive help in the community to live in these times, turning isolation to solitude, and of course connecting to community to find proactive ways to use their strengths. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we would like to welcome Greg and his team of Judy and Michael and Brad to the call. Are you guys all there? Can you hear us? Let us just unmute you all so you can all say hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
G'day.
Hello.
How are you all guys?
Hello.
Well,
Good.
thanks.
Doing good. Doing good.
Great, thanks.
Brad, are you in a car?
I am. I had to come to my daughter's netball parents versus the representative team, and that was interesting.
mate, there's a lot of doing two jobs at once going on around the place as Australia begins to wake up and starts to fight for freedom. I've taken meetings inside my car also, mate. So thanks for taking time out and being here.
Yeah, definitely juggle with sports and the agenda and trying to keep kids having a positive life while we're aware of the other things that are going on. It's like being a spy and living two lives at once, actually, these days.
Yeah,
But it is.
absolutely. I love kids' sporting events, and that's no joke. My kids all did the sporting thing. We loved it. But you got to be really careful these days, especially if you've got red-headed children, because there's a bit of a lurk around called Scott Morrison that likes to turn up and tackle him into the dust. So just keep your eye out for that scumbag.
That looked pretty sus to me.
Excellent. Greg, give us tell us how you got started with TAP Hawkesbury and what are you guys doing down there in your area of TAP Hawkesbury with the TAP satellite groups, just so our listeners can know what we do in our TAP satellite groups. Can you give us a bit of a rundown?
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Originally, it was Mick is on there and myself, and we had, when this COVID sort of kicked off, it was. The whole narrative was a joke, people were being locked up for 14 days and stuff, and we weren't going to have a bar of it. So we went out and found medicine. We sourced it ourselves, and anybody that was in need, we went and found them and helped them. And we found we used the TAP group as our vehicle of choice. And since then, it's sort of grown. And of course, we have fortnightly meetings, out opposite Richmond Air Base, which is a lot of fun if you like planes taking off while you're talking. But then we sort of branched out. People like Amanda and Gail and that. The girls took the reins in their hands and started having midweek meetings, and they've connected everything up with a lot of the freedom movement through the western suburbs. So we have, near enough 300 people that the group's grown into.
300, wow.
Pretty much connected with everybody across Sydney, Yeah.
Right, so it's not just that people who live in Hawkesbury. The TAP group's grown. It's covering quite a large area.
Yeah, we have affiliations with the mob out at, well, they're in TAP too, but they're out at Lithgow, there's a mob over that way. And of course over to the North Shore and Epping and that. Or High Elizabeth, if you're there. And a few of the other guys from over that way and more down towards the eastern suburbs. Yeah,
I
the
speak to
girls
the
have
Central
branched
Coast a
right
fair
out.
bit too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. We've got a few mates in that from the Central Coast. That's right. Yeah.
Hearing a squeaky door in the background.
Yeah, so yeah, that's my son.
So what I've
So
seen,
he's-
Greg, of TAP Hawkesbury is you're also a very highly social group as well. You have lots of organised activities. Who sort of coordinates them?
They're very much they reach a sort of organic phase. You know, once we catch on, we all sort of jump on and promote it. Let me think. Like Amanda's, like I say, she stepped in and started her own what do you call it, events, and just because you know there's this constant posting of doom and gloom and darkness in a lot of stuff that's going on in TAP. Oh, and not just TAP, but right across you know, yeah, this media, and yeah, so that they just want to do an events meeting where it's just posting events, so where people can meet up, and it's turned into a real grass fire. It's taken off, and everybody from right around Sydney is posting on Amanda's page. And getting their meetings from the Blue Mountains to the North Shore to down south, and yeah, it's really going. And I'm very proud of that we've sort of and going with our Humble Man initiative. You know, we're empowering everybody to step out and do their own thing.
Greg, those social events that you're talking about, the social events you're talking about, we're finding that they're super important in creating the community within TAP satellite groups, and they're extremely important in connecting with the wider community that TAP satellite groups live within, and it's how TAP satellite groups grow. What sort of social events have you guys put together that have been really successful, and you think might help other TAP satellite groups?
Well, you know, basically we've done the midweek meetings and stuff, you know.
Yeah, the meetings are important.
Like,
they really are. Yeah.
Tuesday nights, Gail and Amanda's done them. There's too many to mention now. We still just stick with our. You need a physical presence. You can't be just on the media, yeah, because it's no different to sitting home watching TV. And there's no energy.
Yeah, your satellite groups need to get out and they need to meet each other and actually be with each other as much as they can, don't they?
Well, yeah, absolutely. What I wanted to point out is, you know, when you get out and start meeting the people in the groups, you would be gobsmacked at the number of people that have done everything from yoga to meditation to you know, personal development work, shadow work, all these things. They're out there. They're people that are doing it, and not everybody's aware that it's going on. Yeah, but you only need to step out and reach out, and it's there in the group. You know, like this. There's a myth going on in and it's not an accident. The worldview has been poisoned. Where you know you make out everybody's an asshole. Well, they're not. The majority of people just want to get on with their life, even the ones that are complying in that. They're trying to find a decent place to be in their life. So yeah, I don't see you know these people running the show or in bureaucratic positions might have bad intent, but the greater percentage of the masses are people that just want to be left alone, to want to grow in their life, to want to be able to do some good in their life if they can. You know, I believe the Freedom Warriors are pretty much, it's a good start to go to events and all this sort of thing. And they need to do the work on themselves, because our freedom comes from within, not externally. It's the greatest lie in our lives, that everything's external to ourselves. It needs to come from within.
It's a journey, isn't it, Greg?
Well, I prepared a few things, if you don't mind. A quote that's actually 3,000 years old. It comes off the front of the Oracle of Delphi. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's in Greece. Okay, and it goes something like this: heed these words, you who wish to probe the depths of nature. If you do not find within yourself that which you seek, neither will you find it outside. If you ignore the wonders of your own house, how do you expect to find other wonders? In you is hidden the treasure of treasures. Know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods. You know, that's very profound. And I feel these are things we need to take in our heart. And if we're going to be freedom warriors, then we need to find the freedom within us. If you can't find self-mastery, if you can't control yourself, if you have anarchy inside, then the mastery will come from outside of you. And that, none of us want that. It's just manifested itself in the last 2 years. But those of us that have been around for a while and saw the writing on the wall, this has been coming for a while. So this is my message to the Freedom Warriors. More power to you. Please do the work within. Yeah, I have, Judy and Brad and Michael. They're here to point out, to show you that it's not just me. You know, I'm happy to walk through the door and, I'll take the first bullet. If they knock me off, then I'll just go home. I have no problem with any of that. You know, we need to understand that we've come into this body and we're going to leave it. And that is people's misconception. You know, they're lying to themselves, and they need to stop lying to themselves. And
yeah, we're all
going
to have one of these days. We're all going to have a bad day, aren't we, mate?
Well, no, it's not a bad day to me. I'll be able to say, I didn't waste my time. I didn't waste my time. I did something of worth. You know, I've raised 5 kids. I've treasured every moment with them. They're growing into decent adults, and I know they don't do any harm. They follow moral law. I mean, the basic universal moral laws is do no harm. You know, don't steal from people. Don't lie. It's not rocket science. We all know this from infants. You know, there's a mummy and a daddy. You know, and all that stuff in between. That's someone else's
Greg, I
problem.
think there's a lot of.
Hey?
Greg, I think there's a lot of Australia who would absolutely agree with you. These are the simple answers that make our life great and will make our country strong. Michael, if I can address a question to you, mate. Yep. Greg said that you started TAP Hawkesbury with him.
Yep.
How long have you known Greg, and what got you going?
Okay, known Greg for about 20 odd years. Basically through the COVID lockdown, we were talking to each other every day just about all the bullshit that was going on. And we just wanted some practical ways to be able to help other people. And by doing that, you sort of help yourself as well. So yeah, we got in some IV, we got a few things in, we did some research how to help people when they actually got COVID, because the doctors were just saying, go home. It's just cold, go home, and just treat it like a cold, and not really treating anyone with it. So yeah, like I said, we got some stuff in, we went around, just handed some stuff out, and that was pretty well it. We just felt good about ourselves being able to go out and do something, because we were sick of sitting there in our bedrooms and just staring at the walls. That was pretty well it. That's what got it going. And then Greg had the idea of starting up TAP Hawkesbury, and it really kicked on from there. The members all joined up pretty quick. There's a lot of people with the same sort of views. They were pissed off with what was going on, and they could see through the bullshit. So yeah, from there, heaps of other really good people have joined. Like Greg was saying, Gail, Amanda, they've started a lot of social events. They meet up midweek down the pub, have a meal. There's a few of them get out there for it. Every couple of weeks, there's a group meeting. We go out there at Richmond, across from the airbase, like Greg was saying. There's a few guys turn up there, and there's a barbie and stuff like that happening. It's good. It's a good social crew.
Have you guys got
it's the simple things.
Sorry, Ken.
Go ahead, Ainsley. No, go ahead, Ainsley.
I was just going to ask you guys, have you got some of our TAP satellite groups have got some like co-op initiatives and food co-ops and, doing things with farmers and, food swaps and things like that. Have you guys got anything like that happening out at TAP Hawkesbury? Is getting those going?
You would think so. There's a lot of farms out at Hawkesbury, but not that I'm aware of. We've spoken about it. I think there's one up at Harvey Bay. They were doing a really big one up there. I've got a mate up there. But no, we haven't taken it on yet.
We've got a lot of independent farms here. So as far as us going to go and buy direct from a farm, it's pretty easy because where we're based. So that's probably, when you're closer into the city, it's more of an issue, I would think. So, but yeah, out here, if you want to buy from independent people rather than the supermarkets, there's a lot of choice.
Excellent. Maybe we should encourage all the listeners out there, if you're in the Hawkesbury area out there, go and seek out TAP Hawkesbury and find out where you can get in touch with all those farmers out there and support those farmers direct.
And definitely.
Yeah. I'd like to put a question to Judy. Now, Judy, you've been away for a long time, okay? And we all know COVID's bullshit, right? It's never been isolated. In fact, viruses have never been actually isolated. But what else are you awake to in this big story that's unfolding at the moment?
I sort of got woken up by David Icke. I read The Biggest Secret. I think it was back in about 2000, in the year 2000, so 22 years ago. And who goes through all the Illuminati bloodline families that run the world and just sort of unpicks everything that I thought was my life and the world. And just in one book, I was like, oh my God, the whole thing's a lie. And sort of took me about 3 months to stop feeling sick when I worked out, everything that had happened in the world. And then, of course, you had the towers going down in America around about the same time, which was another wake-up call for a lot of people, the Twin Towers. And yeah, just watching, never saw the media with the same eyes again. After I'd read that book, I could see through all of the bullshit and all of the misinformation. And yeah, we were just sort of waiting for what was going to happen. And then the morning after COVID was announced, I'm like, this is it. So yeah, and we're still waiting.
So along those lines, how do we wake up the rest of the people that are still fast asleep? What's the mechanism that's going to excite their conscience?
That's a really difficult question, because I've tried a lot of things. I've gone from, being the information beacon to people not wanting to talk to you anymore. So then saying nothing, waiting to be asked questions. But I've sort of come to the conclusion that it's an individual journey, that people wake up at their own time, in their own time. And just if they're aware that you are sort of awake to what's going on, when they're ready, you can answer their questions. And in the meantime, I'm not breaking any friendships or relationships I have with family and friends that have gone down what I would call the vaccinated path and into the media bullshit and the health bullshit. But yeah, just biding my time, waiting in the wings for sort of when they're ready. And if I hadn't found TAP Hawkesbury, I would have gone mental, because that every 2 weeks of communing with the like-minded people, sometimes it's just the difference between, staying sane and going insane.
So, Judy,
Yeah,
you'd
that's
recommend
amazing.
everyone to jump into a TAP satellite group and meet those like-minded people and get some support and encouragement every week, yeah?
Absolutely, yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I actually try to plant seeds regularly when I meet people and I see people.
A lot of people.
Oh, sorry.
I think Judy, Brad's going to have a little crack. Your
Yes.
audio's coming in quite slow.
Yep, sure. So I find I try to plant seeds with people when I meet them, and we were up in Queensland recently, and I was in a public place, and there's a lot of people I didn't know, and every queue I got in when I was going places with our children, I just start speaking to people and finding out what people thought. And I met people from different states, and I had nothing to lose because no one knew who I was. You see, I'm not in my normal surroundings. I found that quite easy, and the conversations were quite good. And then on a professional sense, in the workplace, I speak to lots of people and get an idea if they're a little bit awake or not awake and where they're at. And I find by planting seeds and asking questions, it's a very good way to actually address people's consciousness. And if I can get them to discover a conflict with their own consciousness, it's something I feel that in their own time, they have to go away and they have to reconcile that. And they can't let it be unreconciled. And then I often find the next time I see them, they'll say, hey, you asked me something last time and I wasn't really sure of the answer, and I thought about it more, and yeah, I'm not really happy about this, but I hadn't realized it. And what do you think about this? And it sort of gets a conversation going. And I find rather than telling people every single thing that I've learned in a short period of time and looking anxious about it, which makes them anxious, and they look at you and they can see the anxiety, so they don't really hear the words. So it falls on deaf ears and they just think you're crazy and don't want to speak to you again. I found that hasn't really worked. So by asking questions, I find it better. And I actually had a very interesting call today with a professional. I won't say where they're from, but it's a type of company that is major in Australia, and we all have to deal with them. And yeah, she said that she was really sorry that she hadn't got back to me over a number of months. And unfortunately, she's been unwell. And I said to her, oh, I hope you're okay. And she said, yeah, well, she said, actually, ever since I got my booster, my energy's been really low. When I get anxious, I get palpitations. I feel like I've got pressure on my chest. And I'm seeing specialists, but they're not really saying that's got anything to do with my vaccine, but I know that it is. And she said, and I know you told me last year around about September, you asked me questions. I told you I didn't want to get them, but I needed to get them to keep my job and look after my young daughter. And she said, so I went and got them. And then ever since I've known that I'm not right, she said, I'm not the same person now. She said, all I can do is think about what you said. And so I offered her support and gave her some directions. And yeah, I'm there for her. So slowly by just planting seeds, I think, and people experiencing and knowing people that are not having a good effect, I think slowly but surely the hard way, the remainder of the people probably wake up, and then there's probably a remainder of people that will never wake up. But we don't need everyone. We only need a decent amount of people. We don't need everybody.
Do you think we've got the people, though? Do you think we've already got them, and they're sort of they're yeah, okay, I'm in, but I'm not all in yet?
Yes, I think they're awake, but they're not taking actions. They might be sharing information, but they're not actively doing actions.
And
Yeah.
that's what we're finding too. Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Greg.
New South Wales, there's not much happening here. Like, there's no regular protests. I look at what's happening in Queensland and take my hat off to them. I look at what Victoria did. Even Western Australia, they got fired up. Northern Territory got fired up when it got bad there. And I don't know if maybe people here just aren't impacted enough at the moment. So they're just under the surface, but they're not actively protesting. I'd love to see people going to the media. I'd like to see them going to certain businesses that are not positive for what's going on and peacefully protest in those areas and be out and about doing things, but there's not much happening here.
Look, I'd like to relate a real quick story, and I'm really having trouble getting my head around the scenario. So I'm working for a highly intelligent lady. She's a highly qualified theatre nurse. She told me that the vaccines for COVID don't work. They've been a bit of a failure. She also told me that monkeypox is spread by gay men who hide their affairs from their wives, and that she's pretty keen to get the vaccine for that if she can. Now I'm having problems with that thinking process. Was there an age when babies were born and they just pull the common sense out of them with the umbilical cord?
I think so. Does she have a problem with trust with her husband?
No.
Well, you don't know. Some of Brad, you might have hit on something there. I don't know. There are a lot of strange stories, and a lot of really incorrect thinking. I was a few weeks ago. I was in my local small town, and an elderly gentleman recognised me and came up to me and thanked the Australia Project for the work that they're doing. Mentioned to me that his sister is a nurse, that she, and he's an elderly gentleman, and his sister is a highly qualified, 40-year experienced nurse. So like second in charge of the nurses in a major government hospital. And when they told her that, in her words, when they told her that she and her girls her staff would have to take the vaccine, she just said, look, that's not going to happen. And she said, and I'm not quitting my job. I'm going to go and tell all the staff, I'm going to organise them against you. So they fired her. So she went down swinging, and she's still fighting them. But her older brother, who was talking with me, this is the other side of the coin. She tried to tell him how dangerous the vaccines were. She is highly skilled, and he wouldn't listen to her, and he laughed at her. And he has had 6 vaccinations. His doctor has given him 6 shots. Wow. And after the third one, Brad and team, his doctor put him on blood thinners because he was worried about all the blood clots that were forming in his body. So he's put him on on thinners, as well as giving him the vaccines, which are increasing the blood clots. And I mean, that's crazy thinking, but he broke down and started crying. It was very sad. And he said, I'm so close to death, and I feel as if I'm going to die. And I wish I'd have listened to my sister. Now he's woken up and says that he won't take any more, and he's trying to save his life with six vaccinations. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know what the outcome's going to be because it's experimental. But it just goes to show there's all different mentalities, and there's so much confusion out there. And I think the confusion is deliberate. I think that goes along with what Greg was trying to tell us before, that there's a deliberately negative narrative out there, and that we need to find that happiness within ourselves. It's Greg, why don't you, if you can still hear us, Greg, why don't you tell us a bit about the humble man theory and how that's been applicable in TAP?
Well,
we seem to.
You there?
Yes, Greg,
Here we go, Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wrote the Humble Man Initiative after a long conversation with Glenn from he's one of the other 5 guys that we started together, and guys we knew I've known for 20 years. Yeah, the without humility, you can't go forward. I can't find the notes on that, but anyway,
That's all right, mate. Just spit it out. I'm sure you know it.
Yeah, no, look, it's you know, it's about empowering other people, and I've always, yeah.
A lot of it was about stopping other people's egos, blocking everybody else as well, wasn't it, Greg?
Oh yeah. Well, we need to come from a place that was neutral, where everybody could step up and shine. I do honestly feel that our way forward out of this is to have everybody be in their own power, be be a light for all those about them, to give everybody a chance to be that person.
Greg, I'm really curious.
Yeah.
One of the things that we mentioned in the list there, that you empower everyone to check their egos. Can you give us a little bit of a you know, how you go about that? Because I'm sure at times we all need our egos pulled into check sometimes. So what do you do? How do you empower people to check their egos?
Well, that's, as I said before, that's about stop lying to yourself, and it's about not about seeing things the way they really are, not the way you wish they were. So, a lot of us, I'm driven by my ego. A lot of what I'm doing now, I've got Brad and Judy and Mick, and they're I trust them to keep my ego in check. I'm only too happy to step up and do the talking and stuff. I have no fear of any of that. What I have a problem with is looking like I'm trying to make myself more important than anything else, whereas the truth is, it's not about me. It's about other people. It's a deeper subject. Sometimes it takes time to do your shadow work to see what that looks like. The reason it's called a shadow is because most people can't see it. You need to be able to stop yourself and see what you're doing in real time. That's not always that easy. As I said to you before, Kent, we're really in a situation where we're being manipulated and we don't. It's hard to see. We're being blindsided. I have a list here of things I've gleaned off a website. A guy has done a lot of in the freedom movement in the States and that, and they're a bit further down the track with a bit of the mind control stuff, or not necessarily further down the track, more in being able to see it. The fact, we everybody knows, like you get the news media and they'll start reporting about Tom Hanks smacking people around or getting upset with his wife. Meanwhile, they're changing law in Queensland to do crop dusting everybody, everything to, the spraying.
Yeah, the live
I believe
cholera
that's the law
vaccine.
they've passed.
Yeah, a live cholera
Yeah.
vaccine. They want to spray it all over Queensland.
Mm.
So yeah, but
Yeah.
you see that the mind trick is, it's not necessarily that. This is like something out of Star Wars. You know, when the guy, I know it's a bit left of field, but where all he wanted was chaos. So the trap and everything with all this freedom warrior now is, we're out there fighting for freedom. Well, that's like having sex for virginity. It doesn't work. You know, you need to come from an adult place. This is otherwise we're being manipulated into violence. You know, like we already saw in Melbourne and that, where they went out and shot the living heck out of them with rubber bullets. They were going to try and do that at Epic. Then I know, because I've got Rello in the military, they shit themselves when they saw 2 million people there. They couldn't get away with what they were trying to do. What they fear most is a whole bunch of people that are enlightened step up and say, that's enough, no more. You don't have to be, you know, pitchforks and torches and all that sort of thing. We just need to stand up as fully empowered adults and say, that's enough, no more. You know, we don't really need government to govern ourselves. We are our own master. And this is what we're born to do. Be our own master. Control our own thoughts and actions. You know,
In fact,
if your thoughts and your feelings and your actions are in conflict, then you're under mind control. Really, you know, really simple. So again, you need to be able to see yourself in real time. The old divide and conquer trick, the indoctrination, you know, let's count the list, the controlled opposition, even the financial system. They got us running every which way they want. And the truth is, currency is in the caring. You know, money is just a construct that we deal with from time to time. And we've got, of course, we've got the mass media, and we've got food and medicine. There's another issue with, you know, with all the fluoride in the water. And here's a big one, the illusion of time. They've got us thinking about things that happened in the past, and they've got us in anxiety with what's happening in the future. And the truth is, we can only fix something in the present, right? So our thoughts and our emotions and our actions in one line, and do it right now, here and now. That will work. Yeah. There's one quote I put up on our page, in that, and I think it's very poignant. I'm directly quoting Mark Passio on that. Are we moving toward the expression of love or toward the expression of fear? Based on available knowledge of ourselves and of the world, we must make an honest appraisal of where we are and where we are headed. An understanding of the past can help us to orientate our direction for the future. Our emotions are our compass for direction. That's very powerful. Anyway, I'd like to know your thoughts, Lance. Are you there?
Hang on, Lance, you're muted. Hang on.
Unmute.
Okay.
I really like the point that you raised, how we don't do this with pitchforks and fires, because I've said right from the start that that's something we must leave in our past. If we can win this with violence tomorrow, we outnumber them by billions, the bad guys, and there are truly bad guys. Now, I know there's lots of good bad guys, and I get that principle, I really do, but I'm talking about people that are probably worthless, and we outnumber them by the billions. But if we do that, we just carry that forward. And the next time we come to a problem, we try and solve that problem with violence, because we solved it with violence last time. So we're much better off. We're much better off standing in our own strength, believing in ourselves, and just saying to these guys, look, we've had enough of this system. We're going to do what we want to do, and we want to be left in peace and quiet and have a logical process to exit. Leave them by themselves. They'll be unhappy. They'll come and join us. That's what will happen. They'll see something better. And it's always the way, isn't it? You know, someone builds a better car, everybody wants it. That's what we are the creators. We're the creators of our own destiny. That's the beautiful thing. You know, that's why we've got to look at our ability first, and look where we're letting ourselves down first before we look at anyone else, blame everybody else. We all drove ourselves to this dance where we are. That's for sure.
We did.
We all have to take responsibility for that, recognize that, and say, right, what do we change about ourselves to change society? And that's what it's all about.
A great saying
That's
comes
my
to
point
mind when
exactly.
you
No, it's
great saying comes to mind when you say that, Lance, is be the change that you wish to see in the world. So it starts with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, could you take us back to Epic and talk about, because look, not only was it epic, we were at Camp Epic, and there's got to be that's got to be like divine providence.
Well, yeah, I describe it. I don't know if anybody, there's probably some people out there that have been to Confest. There's a bit of a hippie thing that happens down on the Murray, but it's a festival for alternate lifestyles and that. And by and large, it's a very peaceful sort of thing, and it's people doing a lot of work on themselves. The only thing that was missing at Epic was the workshops. But I saw people with kitchens, you know, and they fed everybody. And anybody that was cold, they went and they clothed them. Anybody that was hurt, they didn't stand and watch. They didn't stare. They ran to them, you know. And I saw countless interactions of people that just wanted to be in a space of caring people. And I mean, the love in the place was permeable. Yeah. So, you know, we had those that got up and did political speeches and wanted to call things out and all this sort of thing. But I honestly don't believe that everybody was there for a political reason. I think they came there for a much deeper purpose. And that was just that seed that's within them to shine the light out around the place. They, I mean, their hearts were full of love and forgiveness. I mean, I had my dogs there, and one of them ran amok. He got off his lead, and there was countless dogs there. And you know, when you can't really measure how people are until you see them in crisis, or you see them with a blowtorch on them, or you see them being put against. You know, all these people, for all the incidents that happened, it was not a problem. They just got about and cared for each other, you know.
And they were happy people. The energy there was fantastic. I took our daughters there, and they're standing on the corner near the shop and the service station at the entrance there, and someone pulled up and they stopped with a vehicle with a speaker on their roof, and they were playing some pretty good high energy music, and people got up, including my daughters, on top of concrete barriers on the edge, and they were just dancing, and it felt like they were, it's before my time, but it sounded like they were dancing in the 70s to this awesome music. And you had all these children just dancing there and teenagers, and the energy and the love in there was fantastic. Like, to think that people were there away from their life, away from their home, and a lot of people would have thought, geez, they're doing it tough. They were happy. They're the happiest, most honest, caring, giving people that were all there and getting energy from each other. I'd love to see something like that organised, even if it's in a number of months' time, where everyone could plan during a school holiday to go do something, and be there and have a presence and form more change. I think that would be great.
Brad, we've got something planned that is coming up, and it's going to be fantastic. But don't worry about school holidays. If there's one thing I've learned about children, is they probably learn more on holidays than they do in the education systems that we've got.
Oh, definitely.
Now, when we're at Epic, I'm going to say 99% of all interactions with the police from the people at Epic, right? From the, let's call them protesters. They were positive from the protesters' point of view. They were nice to the police, they were courteous to the police. How broken are those police inside that they couldn't reciprocate that courteous behaviour?
Oh, definitely. It robbed their souls. It would be, it'd be a negative energy being applied to them.
It's when you've got that much love and that much positivity, and you have to stay in the negative. Is that like, you know, are those people gone?
You would think so. I've seen it in a number of industries. I even spoke to a professional person who probably deals with 1,500 businesses across Victoria and New South Wales today. And he's always been pretty like non-committal. And he said to me, Brad, because I asked him, what's happening in business? What's everyone thinking? And he said, yes, everyone's finding it hard to get things done because the absenteeism at the moment is huge. Just everyone's sick. And I enlightened him on like what they're finding in Israel. And I listen to Rima Fuluk a lot every week. And a little bit of what you said before was the same, like leave them in their society, create your own, and get on without them. And we don't need them. And that's what he says many times every 5-hour podcast that he has. And basically he's great to watch, and I learn what's happening around the world. And in Israel, I know that they're probably the people that have taken the most of their alleged vaccines, and their sickness is the highest. And the people who are not doing well in hospital or dying, they're the most vaccinated, and the numbers are there, the data's there. And I shared that with him today, and he said, well, that's interesting. He said, because the number, whatever we're doing here in Australia is not working because the absenteeism, people are sicker than ever. And he goes, I hear what you're saying, and I've heard people say this for a while, and I never really thought that it would be necessarily true, but something's got to be causing it. And then I explained to him about the all-cause mortality being at 40%. And then last week, like, we've had a lot of funerals lately, and last week there's people that we know, and they told us that someone close to them had passed away, and so that's terrible. And my wife said, when's the funeral? I said, oh, it's in August. He said, like near the end of August, and over 4 weeks away. And she was thinking they must be going to have to do a pretty complicated autopsy, or there must be something to it. And I said, no, there's no funeral place. They're all booked out. They're all busy. They can't do it until then. And then we hear like overseas that there's a lot of caskets being made that are less than 5 foot for children, which is the saddest thing you could ever hear. And it's all consistent. It's consistent with what we're seeing. And there are people speaking out. There was someone at a local netball game recently where they said they've got to go up to the Gold Coast for a funeral for someone who's in their 40s and just suddenly died and didn't expect it. And he's a pretty fit guy. And one of the dads who I actually woke up originally and successfully woke up, which was fantastic. He actually said in front of about 25 people, guys, don't you connect the dots yet? Can't you see what's happening? And he actually said, since these alleged vaccines, haven't you noticed the amount of people that are getting hurt and that are dying? He goes, I'm sick of this. He goes, wake up, everybody. And I thought, wow, that was powerful. And everyone was silent. No one said a word to him. But it sunk in. And so I think when you've got someone who deals with 1,500 businesses and he's saying he's seeing it, and he was saying nothing a while ago, I think people are coming to that realization. But it's a sad way to have to do it, by going through this amount of hurt, and shows you how our society is very materialistic and everyone's too busy to, as Greg said, live in the present moment. If they show you stuff on TV that happened in the past and they can get you thinking about that or fearful about the future, you're basically incapable of action because you're not in the present. And that's something that I agree 100% that has to be achieved to get positive actions to be taking place. Some of my happiness moments were venturing in my car with writing all over my car that my teenage daughters had put all over my car with their texters, and driving down a freeway and having, I think, 25 vehicles before we got to Canberra beeping their horns and waving at us, and my kids waving back. And more of those movements. I believe if we get that energy together, I think it'll wake up more people. There is lots of people waking up now. We've just got to do something. As you said, we don't need more people. We just need to organise things ourselves and show the people that we're not going to do it. And I think the protest helps because there were a lot of changes that started happening after that pressure was applied and the numbers got bigger. So
there's no doubt about that. The protest was way bigger than the government ever thought it was going to be. That surprised them. We saw them change tactics. We saw a massive 2-metre high steel security fence changed out to traffic bollards because the coppers worked out there was too many people to fit inside. And that means they would be outside with the people if they thought they were going to start shooting us. And so they thought, well, if this goes down, we're going to be in a bad spot. So they pulled that down overnight, the kilometres and kilometres of fencing, and changed it for traffic barriers. So, they had to rethink, and we made them do that. And we made the politicians rethink. But look, bottom line is reality. They're all a bunch of losers anyway. So it's what we can do and who we can help. That's the important thing here. We can't worry about those negative forces. We've got to say, right, we can make positive change. Let's do that. Let's move. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I don't need the bullshit. I haven't seen any coppers that are in the job improve their behaviour. So they're not going to change. I hope they all get 12 vaccines. But it's cheaper by the dozen, boys. Let's hook in. Come round, I'll start vaccinating you for free. I've got some hydraulic fluid.
You see in Queensland now, Lancy, they've mandated for police officers who are 50 years and older that they have to take the fourth booster. Otherwise, they'll lose their job and lose their superannuation, I think, is one other thing that I read. I'm actually going to go into depth into it and get my head right around all those details. But now they're attacking to discriminate them upon their age. If you're 50 or up and up, you must take this vaccine, and it's only going to do them more damage. They're going to damage them, and I don't mean to be laughing because it's a terribly serious situation. But the fact is, if you're 50, you're responsible for your life. You're responsible for your decision. And I was a police officer, was for nearly 2 decades. And you swear an oath. You swear an oath to uphold the law. And I'm sorry, everyone in the Queensland Police Service and every police service in Australia, you swore an oath to uphold the law regardless of fear or favour. If you're going to be controlled by fear, that's your call. There are plenty of people out there who are fighting the good fight, who very cleverly applied the law, and they're still fighting that fight. They're in the game still, and they've told the commissioned ranks, you know what you can do with your vaccine, and they're still alive and still fighting. So if you want to go ahead and take it and you want to give into that fear, that's up to you. But you swore an oath to the people of Queensland and the people of whatever jurisdiction you work in, that you would uphold that law without fear or favour. And I'm sorry, most of you are acting out of fear of your mortgages, and these are good solid fears, I understand, but they're fear. And,
see, look, I see 2 problems, Ken. Right. First problem is this. COVID was an IQ test. So most coppers are going to fail. That's the
absolutely
first problem. Second problem is
no, he's right. He's absolutely right.
the second problem is this: is that they don't even know what laws they're upholding or breaking, because they don't know the law, because they come out of a spaghetti factory and they get told what to do by a bunch of bloody Masons who just want to see them all gone anyway. So it's a self-perpetuating suicide squad. That's what I see the boys in blue as. But keep up the good work.
Yeah, well,
boys.
I worked it out.
My life easier.
I worked it out, and there's quite a few who did work it out. But you're right. The time now is to do what is right. You got to make a choice between what's right and what's easy. And it's time to choose to do what's right.
Well, this is what he was talking about. He was talking about fear, and these people are living in fear. Grow up, guys. You lose your house, so what? You're still alive. You still have your children. Wake up.
I'd like to pose a question to our four guests this evening, just on the back of a comment by one of our people on our call this evening. James says that he worked in the profession, the legal accounting profession. Not the most exciting people. I'm in the financial industry, so I know what they're like, pretty dry and boring sometimes. And of course, nearly everyone is asleep and on board. Nearly everyone, he said, was jabbed, and they were happy to be jabbed. And he was the only one that was never sick. These people are supposed to be intelligent. This is not about IQ, but whether you are a spiritual being. And he's concluded that most are spiritually dead and will never wake up. Just like to hear briefly from each of you, what have you got to say about that? Do you agree with those comments? Most people are spiritually dead. Is it about a spiritual war that we're in right now?
Well, Judy's been awake for a long time. What do you reckon, Judy?
I would never say there's no hope for anyone, but that's just me. Like I said, everybody's on their own individual path, and I actually think it's the media and the programming have done such a good job. And you've got mum and dad both working, kids got stuff after school, and there's just so much stuff that you've got to pack into a day. It is really hard to get any time for yourself for any young couple that's raising kids, and they're just flat out trying to pay the bills and do the mortgage. So getting 5 minutes to wake them up, or, something happening to, I've got 6 kids, four out of 6 of my kids are vaccinated and their partners, and I'm pretty sure my grandchildren in WA are, because they're in the narrative. And, despite my best efforts, they've all taken the vaccine. So, and they're definitely not asleep. They've just made a conscious choice that they didn't want to lose their jobs, and they didn't want to lose their homes. So yeah, but like I said, I would never say never. I think there's always an opening there at some time.
Yeah, hard to work when you're dead, hard to enjoy a house from your coffin.
Exactly.
It's a common sense approach. The IQ test, guys, the IQ test.
I've saved someone from that as well, who's a personal trainer. And I said, they wanted to go back to personal training. And I said, how can you do that if you don't have your health? And that reached them, and they stayed strong. And they're so thankful to this day that they never went back. I've actually recently heard of something interesting of people who have worked for certain departments of the government that have been put off, that have gotten legal, that have taken them to court. But before they've ended up in court, they've been offered pretty decent settlements with NDAs, so they can't tell anyone about it. And I didn't know that was actually happening. Have you heard of any of that? Because it might be the option for people who are looking at staying strong. If they knew that if they stay strong and they fight and that they can get a payout, it might be worthwhile them getting that and going and doing something else.
I think that's the power of the NDA.
Yeah, that's why we haven't heard about it, because they've signed an agreement and they've taken the paycheck,
taken the moolah.
But
that's
look,
right.
And certainly, if you're prepared to fight, you deserve all the good things that come your way. So more power to them. And there's quite a few police who have just simply use the system. When this first started, Lance and I had conversations with a couple of hundred police inside Queensland, and we said to them, look, the situation is this, just everyone goes sick. And they could have.
Yeah.
And they could have stayed out. They could have used the systems that were already there, and it would have brought the government to their knees. But they chose not to do that. But there are those, Brad, who did choose to do that, and they're still fighting that fight and still winning. So
Did South Australia get any reprieve? Did I hear that the South Australian police mandates were dropped?
I haven't looked into that one, Brad. I'm not sure.
It might have been a couple of months ago. I think I heard that. Haven't heard any more since. There's a lot, obviously, that we hear, and it's hard to keep up with everything. But yeah, be good if that was the case.
Yeah, I think that
I'll do some looking into it.
Look, the scariest thing for me was this: the people meant to uphold and protect the law were the biggest chicken shits in Australia, and that was the truth.
It's true.
Why don't you tell us what you're really thinking?
I'm thinking that people need to seriously, and look, I'm spoiled, guys, and I've told this before. I've come so close to death that I was dead, and that's close enough. And every day for me is a bonus, and that gives me a liberty that the average person doesn't enjoy. Is that I know how peaceful it is, and I know it's nothing to be feared. Plus, I have a very strong faith basis. So when my time is up, my time is up, and I'll be happy with that. I've lived a great life, and I'm happy with that as well. But if I had to go out with a blood clot or a heart attack or an aneurysm or a strange cancer because I was a chicken shit, I think I'd probably get rid of every mirror in my house. That's, I don't think I could be happy with myself that I've lived the best life.
Cool.
Yeah.
Guys, we are going to have to wrap it up. I would like to just comment on something that another one of our listeners has said, because it's really pertinent, because we've got Greg and the team here from one of our TAP satellite groups. Deborah says, thanks, Greg. So everything that you've shared, thanks to everyone. Their TAP group has many that nurture a rich inner life and know this is how we intentionally create community and stay physically and emotionally healthy. Humility, truth, and love counteract the fear and bring confidence. And like, it might sound a little bit religious, she says, connecting with God and source, but really it is powerful spiritual traditions sharing and creating. It's really powerfully uplifting. And Deb, for one, says she uses this to inform actions such as political work, or even creating a garden, maybe creating her own sustainable garden out there, I hope. And she says it's a real buzz. So guys, Greg, Judy, Michael, Brad, thank you so much for sharing so many of your insights and what you guys are doing out there in TAP Hawkesbury there. And our listeners, if you haven't joined one of our TAP satellite groups, I encourage you please to look for your local TAP satellite group and become a part of that, and join in some of the initiatives that our TAP satellite groups are creating, because we are creating alternative systems that you guys can step into and away from the current systems that no longer serve us. So if you guys want to do that, get in contact. We're always here. Triple Tap. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Lance. I hope you guys have had an amazing time tonight, and thanks to our guest speakers tonight. And we will see you next time on Triple Tap.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Not everyone.
Shine out, everybody. Shine.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.